I'm pretty sure this is a guy.
Thought it was a chick.
I think I'm a guy. On the story. Anyway.
Okay. I was gonna say, okay, wow. What happened at work today?
I think I'm a guy. Just kidding.
I think I got penis now.
Nope, not yet.
Nice.
You never know this day and age.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Spirits and Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Thomas Aarons.
And I'm Carly Bird.
The cameras, because I did that in reverse there. Carly, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm actually feeling extremely powerful right now because I have all of these numbers and letters in front of me, and I feel like I can do anything. I'm on top of the world. I am God. Tommy tonight has decided to teach me how to be God, basically.
So for our other channel,
control all of the specs. Check this out.
So for our other channel, we are going to an expo. We are doing a massive expo for the Fishing the DMV channel, and I decided that I probably need to get you like all dialed in to be able to do it. She's trying to show you buttons that we can only see, which is kind of funny for me.
What? They can't see that?
No, they can't see any of the buttons. All they can see is the screen that we see ourselves in.
Well, that's why I put the yay up there. They can see the yay, right?
That's being clipped, Tom.
They can see the yay, right?
I put the yay on the board, Tom.
Right? They can see that.
Yes, they can.
All right. Thank you.
And then also, I guess we're starting another channel too, a horsey channel that might be happening as well.
What?
My sister wants to start a horse podcast.
Yeah, but I didn't know you were a part of it.
I have all the stuff. And so,
might as well join, I suppose.
Well, I felt bad. She's like, I want to put this together. She's like, she's going to spend all this money and she doesn't know if it's going to work. It's like, if you want birthday present, whatever, I can set up for like one episode and you could like pilot episode to see if it even works before you spend the money.
True.
I can help you out there. Like, I mean, this is like, I'm good at this. So
yeah, I like that idea.
So
that'd be awesome. Podcast number 3.
I just do you think there's enough people that would want to listen to a horse podcast? Because now, guys, I'm saying this not as being a dick because I do ride, but like I'm not in it like her. Like she's in it. Like she. Like,
so there are already a lot of other horse podcasts.
That's my next. Really?
Yes, I have them downloaded on my devices.
Wait, really?
Yes.
What kind of pony podcasts do you listen to?
Just like dressage and like eventing.
She changed her like dressage.
Dressage and eventing and that was the jump. Anyway, basically, there's a lot of horse podcasts out there. Okay.
Oh my God, help us all. But anyway, guys, we made it week 66. Week 66.
Oh shit, Linda. Yes, I can. I don't know what she can, but.
So, Linda, what can you do?
Oh, I think she could see the yay. I believe she wants to do a games version. Yeah, we want to do a mounted games, which would be perfect because I don't think that exists. And that would be a niche that would be literally like, I don't know.
It would be a niche.
Worldwide that, you know, you could have a lot of different subscribers.
It'll be pretty crazy.
Not only the equestrian
How's the dogs?
world, but also,
we were talking earlier on the channel, but then she like had some
like
dogs.
Somebody peed on somebody.
Yeah, she had a human was shitting on her bed or a dog was shitting on her bed.
She said he, so it could have been a human. Could have been your dad.
Whoever, no. Hey, but hey, I'm glad that he's back from Florida safe. Glad that there was no issues there. But yeah, the clan, as we call them, they're doing okay, which is fantastic. And I guess they're coming to Richmond too, so that's gonna be a really big deal.
What's happening in Richmond?
There's a lot of stuff. We actually were talking about it while you were filming with the channel, but I'll mention it again.
Yeah, but you didn't actually like.
Yeah, we got the Fishing the DMV. I did, but Fishing the DMV is going. It's going to be at the Richmond Expo, Fishing Richmond Expo. That's why she's on the switches tonight. She's got to learn this a little bit, so that way, while I'm busy, she at least knows how to turn the computer on, which would be a plus.
Wow.
But no, there's been a lot of good stuff, and there's been a lot of stuff in the cryptid community too. I had their names up a second ago, and then I completely lost them. But it's so crazy that our channel has blown up. We've gained 20 subs in the last month, and we've only like uploaded twice. And again, I apologize for that, guys. I've been busy. And
we've basically ghosted you.
It's been my fault, and that's a really good pun there. I appreciate that. But anyway, like as I get this up right now, 5 seconds, 3, 2. Carly's talking. So Sam and Colby.
I would talk if you would stop talking.
Sam Goldbatch and Colby Brock were on the Joe Rogan Experience, which was a lot of fun to see them on there.
Oh my gosh, such a fun podcast to listen to. Really inspired me.
Talk to me about it.
Well, it inspired me that if it, they actually get out there in the real world and go to haunted locations and record themselves, like, trying to reach out to through that wall, into spirit world. And basically it got me all excited, like, oh my gosh, we sit here in our basement talking about ghosts and spirits and stuff and goblins and all of that, but like we barely go out into the real world and search for them. And I feel like we need to do that more often. Now, we did do that a couple of times, one in Gettysburg, and the other time we went to that like haunted winery. Remember, that was really fun. But it's been a long time. Like, the last time we went to Gettysburg was before October, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was around October, maybe before that. And then when we went to the winery, oh my gosh,
Summertime.
That was over a year ago.
Yeah.
Over a year ago. I mean, it was a year and a half ago, basically, at this point. So, yeah, it's about time that we go. So, fans, if you have any idea of where we should hit up, we are like Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, tri-state, quad-state area. Definitely let us know where we should go. That's going to really, give us the shits and giggles that we're looking for. Okay.
Good talk. All right, moving on to the next segment of the show. It is Scary Things in the News.
Scary things in the news.
Bring them up. So, anyway, in this scary thing in the news, we're talking about ghost hunters that claim to have the ghostly figures of a little girl lurking in the supposedly haunted house where the 2021 horror movie, A Savannah Haunting, was filmed. Canley Smith, 24, from Nashville, Tennessee, says the team behind the movie invited him to investigate the set in Savannah, Georgia, after filming wrapped up. The scary movie follows the story of a grief-stricken family who moves to Savannah after their young daughter tragically drowns, hoping to move forward from the devastating incident. Unfortunately, once at their new home, the mother begins to experience eerie happenings and becomes convinced she's being haunted by her daughter's spirit.
Oh no. Look at the picture. Apparently that's a ghost.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either.
Scroll down.
Looks like a blur.
There you go. A film was shot in the family home. A film was shot in the family home of actor, writer, and director William Mark McCullough, where claims of paranormal occurrences have been reported for decades. Kalarian, who spent 4 days camped out at the spooky property along with his wife, says he began to feel uneasy the second he stepped through the door. Ooh. According to Kalani, the building has a variety of unique energy you can definitely feel at times. So the biggest thing I want to think about...
Something is watching you, he says.
So this story, the reason I wanted to bring it up is about energies. Do you believe in energies?
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
I believe if something like significant or horrible happened, that there is almost like a ripple effect where, like, let's say somebody was brutally murdered. I think that dark energy somehow like stains that part of Earth. And that's almost Jesus like Christ. Where the portal happens, where they enter the portal that where they die. Their soul obviously has to go from one place.
Because we're talking right now, so go back to the main screen, which is just the little person.
I'm trying.
One person.
Oh, hold on, I forgot my mouse was up there.
There you go. You did it.
So I think that basically when a person dies, that like their soul leaves their body and then obviously enters purgatory.
So continuing on, as you scroll down, managed to record... I know, I'm proud of you for scrolling. Managed to record a number of videos at a property. Uploading one of the clips left a number of followers chilled to the bone and has since knocked more than 12.8 million views.
Whoa!
Anyway, the whole point of this article, the reason I just bring it up, is just really interesting. They talk about the energy and about you being able to feel things. And I remember from that Joe Rogan podcast episode that actually came out that they talked about this a lot too, about energies in the different room and how energies exist. And I think that's really interesting because I definitely believe in that you can go into rooms and you can feel the tension. You can feel like when things are stressful, you can think like things are awkward. It's an energy thing. It's a vibe in the room. It's the same thing when you go out in the woods at night and you can feel that too, like when there's something wrong. So anyway, that right there is scary things in the news.
In the news.
Can you switch the screens back?
I want to watch this video now. They actually see faces and stuff. Prepare yourselves for the tale of Shack in the Woods. I was awake. I knew that. I couldn't see anything. Certainly nothing of the noise that had woken me, but I could feel very strongly that I should not be there. It was not a dark and stormy night. It was a slightly overcast morning and humid. In the summer of 2007, I lived in Virginia, not far from Lexington, in a little town on the James. My place was right at the edge of town, backed to the woods. It was perfect for those weekend morning walks. I was out on my Saturday morning walk, but there was not many people out there. There are pretty clear paths through the woods near the town. I was strolling somewhat aimlessly down one of my favorite tracks when I saw movement up ahead. I rarely saw anyone when I was out in the woods, so I felt a bit surprised. I strained through the slightly misty forest air, trying to make out the figure. Then the mist parted briefly, and I saw a familiar brown jacket and camouflage ball cap in the sunlight. It had to be Larry, the guy who had the place next to mine. He was a great, friendly guy.
That's why she's frustrated.
Though,
she had to read this story about her dad.
Though I'd never seen him out in anything except that jacket and a hat. A creature of habit, I guess. Larry was terrific, but that yapping little dog of his was a pain. The damn animal would be up, barking at all sorts of hours. It didn't seem to bother Larry, but it bothered me. Come to think of it, I thought, I hadn't heard that dog last night.
Poor Larry.
I quickened my pace slightly, aiming to catch up with Larry. He was always good for a chat and a laugh, no matter how hard I tried. However, I didn't seem to shorten the distance between us. Frustrated and thinking he may have seen me and not felt like company, I finally slowed and looked around me. I was in a part of the woods I'd never been before. That didn't worry me. I have a pretty good sense of direction, and I knew all I had to do was go downhill to get back to the path. I was surprised by the woods, though. I was sure I hadn't gone significantly far, but here the woods were much more overgrown than the area I usually walked in. There were brambles and extensive undergrowth under the trees, though the plants had a brown and sickly look. The trees themselves seemed stunted compared to those closer to the river. It reminded me of the forest I had once seen in South Khabarovsk in Russia, where industrial runoff had polluted the ground. There was no industry up in the hills, though. As my mind was processing this, my eyes drifted along the treetops. There, smoke. Not much, but just a slight trail of gray slowly climbing into the clearing sky. So something was going on up there. Curiosity got the better of me. I hunted around the trees and the brambles, looking for a path to the smoke. Eventually I found it, rough and slightly overgrown, but definitely winding away toward the smoke. I pushed through the tangled growth and followed it. It came out into a small clearing among the stunted trees. At the far side, backed up against the trees, was a building. To call it a shack would be generous. It seemed to have been thrown together from bits and pieces of other houses. It was wooden mostly, with boards laid horizontally, but with an apparent disregard for color and size. There were spaces for windows, but covered in rotting plywood. A stone step led to a doorway with no sign of a door. The roof was metal. At least 3 different shades of paint peeked through the rest. At the top, on the far side, was a crooked chimney made from an assortment of bricks and stones. A thin plume of smoke rose, or more correctly, leaked out of it. I'd found the source of the smoke. I started across the clearing. I'd found the place now, and I had a strong desire to see what was going on in there. I paused, though. The hills around here could be home to any number of less than friendly folks. There could be growing drugs, hunting illegally, or any other activity that meant they wouldn't welcome visitors. Of course, if that were the case, they'd probably already seen me. I decided to be friendly and hope things would pan out okay. "Hello," I shouted. "Anyone there?" There was no response. In fact, there was no noise. The whole forest seemed to have frozen. I couldn't hear a bird, a cicada, or even the breeze in the trees stopped. It was as if a cone of silence had fallen over the whole clearing. I felt that there was something or someone around, though. The hairs on the back of my neck were up. I felt nervous and jittery. A part of me wanted to be out of there. I was still curious, though. I was also a little worried that someone might be in there and just waiting for me to turn around before... What? I wasn't sure. But I felt I should try to communicate again. I cleared the sudden blockage in my throat and tried again. "Is anyone there?" The silence continued. The world seemed shut out of that little clearing. I felt like I was standing on an alien planet. I shivered. Logically, I should have just backed out of the clearing and gone home. I guess I wasn't that smart. There was smoke coming from the chimney. Someone must be in there. Someone who didn't answer me. Maybe someone who couldn't. Perhaps someone was in trouble or injured. I figured I should have a quick look inside to make sure no one needed help. Or perhaps I just gave in to my curiosity. I looked in the doorway. The sky was still overcast, and there was no light in the cabin. I couldn't see a thing. I took a couple steps inside, moving to one side to let the weak daylight in. As the light trickled in, I could barely make out along the back wall what looked like 3 people. No, 3 vats or flasks. Each quite large, brass maybe, and connected by tubular piping. Brass pipes. I let out a quick laugh. Moonshine. It was a moonshine still. Couldn't stand the stuff myself, but if that's what folks were up to here, good luck to them.
How much did she drink?
What?
I couldn't stand it myself, which implies that she's drank a bunch of it. She's so passive, like, I've thrown back a couple of things.
What makes you think they drank a lot just because they don't like it? Usually it's the opposite. They take a sip and spit it out.
Usually I don't think people that drink alcohol are like, I take a little sip of it, oh, this is against the Lord. It's usually like you pounded vodka a lot and got pegged in college. So now like if you smell vodka, you're like, I'm sick of it.
Potentially, maybe that's what happened. She got pegged in a cabin because she went overdose with moonshine.
Continue. Marriage.
Also, I'm pretty sure this is a guy.
Thought it was a chick.
I think I'm a guy. On the story. Anyway.
Okay. I was just like, okay, wow. What happened at work today?
I think I'm a guy. Just kidding.
I think I got penis now.
Nope, not yet.
Not
You never know this day and age. Okay, calm down, Tom. Deep breaths, all right?
I hurt my soul there. Continue.
I took another couple of steps inside, admiring the pipework when the smell hit me. Now I've smelled stills before. They're not unpleasant if kept clean, but this smell was different. It was a putrid, sickly, sweet smell. It made me gag at the back of my throat. I shook my head to clear it. That's when I saw the pile beside the still. At first I thought it was just a pile of rags or something similar, like you'd often find in places like this. But rags don't have 4 legs or fur. I took one step closer, over to the rickety boards, trying not to gag anymore on the odor. Crap, it was a pile of animal pieces. What the hell were people doing here? Fur, skin, bones, legs? I stopped looking and stepped back. My foot hit something as I retreated. I waved my hands, briefly fighting for balance, before I crashed to the floor. My head hit something hard. I saw stars, real stars. My vision spent a few seconds coming and going, and that was before the pain of the impact managed to work its way into my consciousness. I groaned. I shook my head and I tried to clear my bearings again. But my head was a large and quite solid-looking brick. Well, that explained the pain. Then I looked down at my legs. There was a metal bucket by my left foot. It was obviously full, as it was heavy enough to trip me, but not fall over itself. I rolled over and pulled myself along the floor to look at the offending bucket. I didn't feel up to standing just yet. One sight and smell of the bucket, and I just about threw up. Floating in a mix of blood and other bodily fluids were pieces of rotten meat, browns, blues, and different colors I didn't want to see. I pulled my head back and lay on the floor again, fighting down my rapidly rising bile. My head was still swimming, and the contents of the bucket had not helped. I felt terrible, but everything I'd seen made me want to get out of that place. I steeled myself to rise. Something grabbed my ankle. I looked down. That bang on my head must have done a lot of damage. I saw, somewhat unclearly, a hand. The skin was white, almost as white as chalk, but each finger ended in a long, black, pointed nail. I looked up further. The hand was attached to an arm covered in a rotting cotton sleeve. I still felt dizzy, but I could make out the vague shape of a man in the darkest corner of the cabin. His hand was on my ankle, gripping it tight. "Let go!" I shouted. "What are you doing?" The man made no response, but he started to pull. My head was still swimming, but this made no sense. I'm muscled, a good 200 pounds, but his skinny arm was slowly dragging me across the floor. I grabbed at the boards, trying to slow my movement. The clouds outside broke briefly, and sunlight flooded into the cabin. I wished it hadn't. Whatever was pulling me looked even less human. It was tall, way too tall, and thin. Its arms seemed twice as long as they should be. Its legs looked far too thin to hold up its bloated body. Its head was still in shadow, and I felt unreasonably thankful for that. I scrabbled at the floor even more desperately as it slowly pulled me even closer. My hand found the brick and closed over it. Frantic and almost beyond thinking, I hurled it towards the monstrous creature. I heard the impact. A sickening soft sound. Then it screamed. It wasn't a human scream. It was a high, piercing caning that cut straight to my bone. Ah! That was so scary. The hand dropped off my ankle, and I staggered to my feet. I had no more curiosity. I wanted out. I lurched across the floor, rebounding off the door frame, and out into the blessed sunshine. Shaking my head, trying to clear the fuzziness in there, I jogged for the path. Behind me, I heard movements, the creak of floorboards. God, was that thing coming after me? I picked up my speed, diving through the underbrush and out into the main path. I sprinted, or tried to. My balance wasn't so good. Down the trail, I could hear the thumping sound behind me. I had to get away, get down the path, get down to the town. I can't remember much of that run. I fell more than once, but I never wanted to look behind me. Then I reached the bottom of the hill. I was exhausted. I could run no more. I could still hear a thumping. It took me a moment to realize it was the blood pumping in my head. Unable to run anymore, I slowly turned my head to look behind me. The path was clear. The birds were singing above me, and the clouds had cleared. I managed to smile. I took a step. The world spun around me, and I collapsed into oblivion. The policeman listened intently to my story in the hospital. The nurses had told him I was concussed and suffering multiple minor injuries. I guess it could be energies as well if it was a ghost. The nurses had told him I was concussed. I guess he didn't know whether to take me seriously or not. By the time I was well enough to be discharged, I seemed to have him convinced. Both of the local cops accompanied me up the hill the day after I left the hospital. I hadn't accurately described where the cabin was, so I could take them to it. I do have a pretty good sense of direction. We found it quickly enough, though. On that day, there was no smoke from the chimney, and the birds were out in force in the clearing. I refused to go inside. There are some things I just can't do. When the cops came back out, their faces looked a lot paler. They'd found what I said. They'd identified the remains of a deer, a mountain lion, and Larry's dog. There were other animal remains, but they were too far gone to identify. All of the identifiable animals had their blood drained. There were a few mysteries left. Who had been in that cabin had left no evidence of their identity. A camera left nearby showed no one entering the cabin for the last 6 months. After that, they tore it down and buried the remnants. No one could identify the material in the still. It was undoubtedly not moonshine, but no one could work out what it was and what it was for. Oh, and Larry said he'd never been out that morning. So what was I following? Was it leading me to the cabin? I didn't wait for 6 months. I have no idea who or what was in that cabin. I think I don't want to know. What it was going to do to me, I have even less desire to ever find out. I left that little town a week after the event. Now I have an apartment in inner city Chicago. People tell me it's not safe, but I like it. There are no trees. And that was the tale of the shack in the woods. We're back.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you guys so much.
That's a wrap.
I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on Spirits and Ghost Stories. Bye.
Bye.